Have you ever heard of a horse so clever it could pick its own stable locks at night and even free its friends too? In our story, this extraordinary mare's late-night escapades led to heart-stopping events that no one at the ranch could have predicted. What began as a bit of harmless mischief soon escalated into a gripping tale involving unexpected fame, suspicious visitors, and even a daring theft that put everyone on edge. If you're eager to discover exactly how this remarkable saga unfolds and the inspiring lessons the ranch community learned along the way, be sure to watch or listen to the entire narrative from start to finish. You won't believe how it all turns out. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your subscription helps us continue sharing captivating stories like this one. By joining our community, you'll stay updated on future tales brimming with adventure, hope, and the incredible bond between people and animals. Jonas Walker was an experienced ranch hand who dedicated his life to caring for the Caldwell family's animals at a peaceful property known as Harmony Acres. Every morning for several weeks in a row, the same unsettling scene greeted him at dawn. Stable doors that should have been locked stood wide open, and horses meandered freely across the yard, causing a mild frenzy with scattered hay and overturned troughs. Jonas prided himself on thoroughness, so the daily chaos left him feeling puzzled and uneasy. Despite rechecking each latch before the night ended, he still woke up to find the animals out of their stalls, almost as if they had decided on their own to host secret gatherings. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Jonas enlisted the help of Silas and Harper Caldwell, the owners of Harmony Acres. The Caldwell family had spent decades developing their beloved homestead, nurturing every corner to ensure that horses, goats, sheep, and a small group of rescued dogs all coexisted in harmony. The ring of mountains encircling the estate provided a stunning natural backdrop, and the soft, rolling hills were a haven for grazing animals. Silas was a calm, steadfast leader with a streak of gray in his hair to reflect his many years of working with animals. By his side, Harper was a lively and compassionate woman whose devotion to the horses was second only to her dedication to making Harmony Acres a place of peace and learning for guests and visitors. Jonas, Silas, and Harper couldn't ignore the mystery of the unlocked stalls. First, they suspected local teenagers up to mischievous pranks. Perhaps young riders who visited Harmony Acres for lessons returned at night for a daring thrill. However, there was no evidence of forced entry or vandalism. Then came the thought of strong nighttime winds, but every single lock was found upright and unbroken each morning, just left undone in some baffling way. The creeping suspicion that something else was at play became too strong to disregard. At last, Jonas proposed a solution he hoped would clarify the bizarre situation: installing discreet cameras around the stable doors. Silas and Harper agreed immediately. They reasoned that having proof of whatever was happening overnight might offer them peace of mind, and even if it was just a horse or a wild animal wandering the grounds, they would at least have an answer. So, as dust settled, the trio quietly set up small security cameras at every key point around the stables, testing angles and ensuring there would be a clear view of each stall door. They allowed the usual nighttime routine to unfold. Jonas performed his final rounds, verifying that every gate was firmly latched, patted a few of the horses on their noses, and whispered goodnight. With all seemingly in order, they retreated to their respective beds, harboring a vigilant anticipation for what the cameras might reveal. When the first pale rays of sunlight touched the meadows, Jonas hurried to the makeshift surveillance station they had set up in an old tack room. His heart pounded as he scrolled through the footage, half expecting to see flashlight beams or shadowy intruders. At first, nothing of note appeared on the screen. Hours after midnight, the stable interior stayed dark, with only the soft shuffle of hooves and an occasional flick of a horse's tail. Then, around 3 in the morning, a sleek figure emerged from the corner of the frame. Jonas leaned in, breath caught in his throat, only to realize the figure wasn't human. It was Mara, the sharp-witted ebony mare who often displayed uncanny intelligence. On the recording, Mara carefully unlatched her own stall door using her teeth, maneuvering the metal piece until it gave way with a click. She then nudged the door open with her muzzle, stepped calmly into the corridor, and proceeded to the stalls of other horses. Within minutes, 3 more equines followed her into the cool night, each door liberated by Mara's deft manipulations. It was eerie how purposeful they seemed as they crept toward the outer gate which Mara similarly jostled open. By the time the group stepped into the moonlit yard, they were moving like a team that had practiced this routine more than once. Never a loud whinny or frantic scuffle, just a silent foray into the open. Jonas replayed the footage twice, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. He quickly sought out Silas and Harper, who were in the kitchen having coffee. "You're never going to believe this," he said, excitement and shock mixing in his voice. "Mara is picking the locks. She's letting everyone out." Silas raised an eyebrow, looking like he needed to witness it to believe it. Harper, though initially skeptical, watched the video and shook her head in amazement. "I knew Mara was clever," she murmured, "but I never dreamed she was capable of that." Determined to confirm their suspicion, they set the cameras to record again the following night. Like clockwork, Mara repeated her mischief, roaming freely and even heading over to the feed shed. This time she pushed the shed door open with her nose and pulled out a bag of oats, allowing her equine friends to partake in a communal midnight snack. Silas nearly dropped his mug when he saw Mara's boldness. "She's orchestrating a whole party," Harper laughed. Despite the headaches caused by daily cleanup, they couldn't help but feel a certain pride. Mara wasn't just another horse. She seemed to possess a unique spark that drew everyone's admiration. Soon, Harper began recording these antics with a higher quality camera, intending to share them with a few relatives. Little did she know that once the footage hit social media, Mara's stunts would capture the public's imagination, catapulting both the mare and Harmony Acres into a whirlwind of unexpected attention that threatened to upend their peaceful existence. Within days of Harper's first upload, Mara's nighttime escapades went viral. Local horse enthusiasts spread the word, and soon people from across the country discovered her videos. Online comment sections overflowed with humor and astonishment. One viewer joked that Mara could teach teenagers how to be more responsible, while another wondered if she was part human. Before long, reporters flocked to the gates of Harmony Acres, eager to snap pictures of the lock-picking mare. Trucks with satellite dishes showed up outside, and the phone rang day and night with media requests. Silas, Harper, and Jonas had always welcomed visitors. Harmony Acres hosted riding lessons, open houses, and educational tours, but they had never experienced anything like this. Silas handled countless phone calls from news outlets seeking exclusive interviews, while Harper juggled inquiries from families begging for a chance to see Mara in person. Even Jonas, who generally avoided publicity, found himself cornered by reporters who asked him to describe his first realization that Mara was behind the stable door mystery. Initially, the Caldwell family tried to accommodate the crowds, hoping the publicity might help the ranch financially. Perhaps more visitors or lesson bookings could support their aim of improving conditions for all the animals. But the situation quickly became untenable. Dozens of cars parked along the dusty road leading to the property, and unescorted strangers wandered around, sometimes rattling stall doors in their eagerness to witness Mara's feats up close. Harper worried for the animals, who were unaccustomed to the hubbub. Mara herself seemed untroubled by the attention, often strolling up to the fence line to greet onlookers with pricked ears. But the other horses grew nervous. Silas gently reminded a pushy reporter, "This is Mara's home, not a theme park," after the man demanded private footage of the mare. Realizing they needed to protect their sanctuary, the Caldwells took action. They hired extra ranch hands, locals who cared deeply about horses, to monitor the gate and usher visitors through designated viewing areas. They also set stricter visiting hours, urging guests not to arrive too early or stay after dark. Most people understood that Harmony Acres was fundamentally an animal haven, not a commercial attraction, but some grumbled or tried to sneak in anyway. Gradually, the barrage of intrusions calmed to a manageable stream, allowing Mara and her stablemates a semblance of their normal routine. Yet not everyone who turned up had good intentions. Jonas noticed a small group of men who asked oddly pointed questions about locks and nighttime security. Their demeanor felt more calculating than curious, sending a shiver down his spine. He answered politely, offering no specifics, but sensed trouble brewing. He voiced his concerns to Harper and Silas, who agreed that something about these men was off. Despite the new security measures, a nagging worry clung to Jonas. He had heard stories of prized horses being stolen and resold, and Mara's growing fame could make her a target for thieves. Jonas refused to dismiss his suspicions, and the Caldwells agreed to tighten security further. They added cameras with extended recording capacity, ensuring that every corner of the stables was monitored through the night. The stable doors were reinforced with sturdier locks, partly to discourage any thief who might try to break in, and partly to dissuade Mara from her midnight adventures. While the mare was undeniably clever, Jonas still believed her preference for freedom did not outweigh the need to keep her and her stablemates safe. Despite these precautions, the hustle of ranch life persisted. Horses needed feeding, stalls required cleaning, lessons had to be taught, and visitors, though fewer than before, kept showing up. Jonas often ended his long days feeling utterly spent. One particular evening, he was so exhausted from repairing fences and hauling supplies that he nearly fell asleep at the dinner table. After ensuring all latches were firmly set, he stationed himself in the small office that housed the surveillance monitors. The plan was to watch the live feeds for a few hours before handing off the responsibility to another staff member. However, as the night wore on, fatigue overcame him. Slumped in a creaky wooden chair, Jonas dozed off, the gentle glow of the screens casting flickering shadows on the walls. By the time he woke, sunlight was already creeping through the window. Panic seized him. In a heartbeat, he bolted upright, eyes darting to the monitors. Though the recordings would have captured any intruder, Jonas felt a wave of dread at having failed to watch in real time. Throwing open the door, he sprinted to the stables, dread pooling in his stomach. Several stall doors were ajar, but this time it wasn't Mara's playful antics. The locks were battered and broken, and most heart-wrenching of all, Mara and several other horses were gone. It was a scene of forced entry rather than a mischievous escapade. Troughs lay tipped, and drag marks scarred the ground where horses had been led away. Jonas shouted for Silas and Harper, his voice carrying a tremor. When they rushed in, they took in the devastation with wide-eyed horror. Silas, fists clenched at his sides, demanded they call the police immediately. Harper's trembling voice underscored the urgency. "They've taken Mara. We have to find her." A frantic search of the ranch turned up no additional clues beyond tire tracks in the soft mud near the far paddock entrance, suggesting a horse trailer had been loaded in haste. Jonas was racked with guilt for dozing off. Though Silas and Harper reassured him that the thieves might have struck anyway, he couldn't shake the feeling that his lapse had provided a window of opportunity. As law enforcement arrived, the Caldwell family and their staff began providing every scrap of information possible, desperate to locate Mara and the other missing horses before the trail went cold. Investigators immediately examined the property. They found evidence of a carefully orchestrated theft, tools used to pry the locks, footprints indicating multiple intruders, and the telltale tracks of a trailer. Jonas handed over the surveillance recordings from overnight. Although he had slept, the cameras had continued to capture events. The grainy footage showed a dark van approaching from the rear of the property. 4 figures emerged, wearing hoodies to obscure their faces. With practiced efficiency, they disabled or avoided exterior lights, forced open the stable doors, and quietly guided the horses out. Mara, easily identified by her striking coat and the faint star on her forehead, was among the first they led away. The local community rallied around Harmony Acres. Neighboring ranches offered help, promising to alert authorities if they saw any sign of unfamiliar trailers. People who had once visited Mara sent messages of support or volunteered to post notices across town. Despite the outpouring of kindness, the initial leads fizzled, leaving everyone anxious and heartbroken. Silas grew more withdrawn, studying maps of back roads and farmland in the region, as though he might personally track down the thieves. Harper walked through the stables in a daze, checking on the remaining horses and whispering reassurances to them that Mara would be found. Jonas did his best to remain composed, conducting daily phone calls with the police and refreshing online horse trading forums in hopes the thieves might list Mara for sale. The ranch fell into a somber routine. One morning, nearly a week after the theft, a hint of hope arrived. A long-haul truck driver, passing through the area, had overheard talk of the stolen horses at a diner. He remembered seeing a black van towing a horse trailer behind a neglected rest stop about 50 miles from Harmony Acres. What caught his eye was a dark mare being led out of the trailer for a quick stretch, her glossy coat reflecting the morning light in a way he found unusual. When the driver saw the story on social media, he connected the dots. Jonas relayed this tip to the authorities, who coordinated a rapid search of the region. Soon, word reached them about a secluded homestead matching the driver's description. The property was rumored to be abandoned, but occasionally used by shady individuals. Police descended on the location, and Silas insisted on joining them, while Harper stayed at the ranch to handle any new updates. Jonas rode along, heart pounding with a mixture of dread and excitement. If this lead proved correct, Mara and the other horses might be close at hand. Yet he braced for worst-case scenarios: injuries, poor living conditions, or even evidence that the horses had been sold off. The drive to the dilapidated homestead was thick with tension. Gravel crunched under the tires of the police vehicles, and clouds of dust swirled in their wake. As they rounded a bend, Jonas's breath caught. A black van was parked haphazardly near a sagging barn. The police ordered Silas and Jonas to remain in their vehicle until they secured the premises. Shouts echoed across the property as the suspects realized they had been discovered. A short standoff ensued, ending when the thieves surrendered. With the suspects handcuffed, Silas and Jonas were finally allowed to enter the barn. Inside, the air was foul with neglect. Makeshift stalls had been erected from rotting boards, offering minimal shelter to the stolen horses. Jonas's chest tightened at the sight of them. He recognized several of Harmony Acres' missing geldings, huddled together, eyes wide with fear. Off to the side, Mara stood in a cramped corner. Although her coat was smeared with dirt, she appeared alert and relatively unharmed. Jonas exhaled in relief, tears pricking his eyes. Silas rushed to Mara, gently running his hands along her sides to check for injuries. The mare let out a soft snort, as though relieved to see a familiar face. Police officers snapped photos for evidence and took statements on site. One of the thieves muttered excuses about not realizing the horses were stolen. Another gave a half-hearted explanation that they planned to sell the animals to unsuspecting buyers far away. Their words only angered Jonas and Silas further. Thankfully, the authorities had intervened before serious harm was done. Though filthy and traumatized, the horses could recover with proper care. The immediate concern was transporting them back to Harmony Acres. The thieves' trailer was unsanitary and possibly unsafe. Local animal rescue volunteers arrived with cleaner, sturdier trailers, ensuring the horses could be moved without further stress or risk of injury. Silas rode with one of the rescue teams, keeping a close eye on Mara the entire trip. Jonas followed behind in a pickup, calling Harper to share the good news. "She's okay," he said, voice tight with emotion. "We're bringing her home." Harper burst into tears of relief, promising to have the vet on standby. By the time they arrived at Harmony Acres, the sun was dipping below the horizon in a blaze of orange and pink. News of the horses' safe return had spread, drawing neighbors and friends to the ranch entrance. Some clapped and cheered as the trailers rumbled onto the property, while others stood by to offer quiet support, tears in their eyes. Silas led Mara out gently, where she raised her head as if recognizing the familiar sense of home. Jonas couldn't recall a time he'd felt such overwhelming gratitude. After days of imagining Mara in dangerous situations, here she was, nickering softly and nudging Silas in a gesture of trust. That night, as darkness fell over Harmony Acres, the ranch community breathed a collective sigh of relief. The days that followed were a whirlwind of veterinary checkups, legal proceedings, and heartfelt reunions. A vet examined Mara and the other rescued horses carefully, administering shots and assessing for injuries. Aside from minor scrapes and signs of stress, they appeared physically intact. Emotionally, they needed patience and gentleness to recover from the ordeal. Silas and Harper worked tirelessly alongside Jonas, ensuring each horse had a quiet, comfortable space. Mara, though fatigued, seemed to recognize she was back in a safe environment. Her appetite returned gradually, helped along by the occasional treat and Harper's soft words of encouragement. Meanwhile, law enforcement compiled the case against the thieves. The surveillance footage, paired with the tip from the truck driver and the evidence gathered during the raid, formed a solid foundation for prosecution. The Caldwell family pressed charges, determined to see justice served. If anything, the entire fiasco underscored just how vulnerable even a well-loved ranch could be in the face of determined criminals. News outlets picked up the story of Mara's rescue, casting a spotlight on the darker side of viral fame. While some coverage had once portrayed Mara's lock-picking antics in a comical light, the theft and subsequent recovery highlighted a more serious issue: the black market for valuable or well-known animals. Still, messages of sympathy and support poured in from all over, reminding the Caldwells and Jonas that the world was full of kind-hearted people, willing to take action to help a horse in distress. Reflecting on these events, the Caldwell family gathered their staff for a meeting. Silas, with seriousness in his eyes, explained that the ranch had to bolster its security measures even further. "We can't just rely on luck and goodwill," he said firmly. They made plans to install additional cameras around the pastures, upgrade their perimeter fencing, and coordinate night patrol shifts among multiple staff members. No one wanted a repeat of the nightmare that had almost cost them Mara and the others. At the same time, they vowed not to let fear overshadow the ranch's welcoming spirit. "Harmony Acres should remain a place of kindness and education," Harper insisted, her gaze flitting to Mara's stall. Jonas agreed, pointing out that many supporters had shown up, giving time and resources to ensure the horse's well-being. In the end, they decided on a balanced approach: stricter rules for visitors and more thorough vetting of those who requested special access, but also continued outreach and educational programs for families, children, and animal enthusiasts. This ranch, after all, had thrived for decades by teaching respect and compassion for animals. Slowly but surely, the daily rhythms of Harmony Acres resumed. Lessons started up again, volunteers arrived to help with chores, and the horses settled back into their routine. Mara still displayed the keen curiosity that had made her famous, though now she seemed content to nuzzle Jonas or Harper rather than test the newly reinforced locks. As Harmony Acres rebounded from the harrowing experience, a sense of unity took hold among the staff, volunteers, and neighbors. Whereas before, the ranch was simply a peaceful place to care for animals, it now felt like a fortress of shared purpose. Everyone was invested in keeping the horses safe and happy. Jonas organized training sessions for the staff, teaching them how to interpret camera feeds, recognize suspicious activity, and handle emergency protocols. Nighttime patrols were split into shifts, ensuring no one person ever faced hours of solitary vigilance. Instead of wearing themselves out, staffers could rest assured that backup was always close at hand. The new locks and reinforced fences meant Mara could no longer slip out, even if she tried. Jonas occasionally caught her poking her muzzle around the latches, but she seemed more interested than frustrated, as though acknowledging that the ranch had to change for everyone's good. In quieter moments, Harper would stand by Mara's stall, gently stroking the mare's mane while reflecting on how a single animal could spark both astonishing delight and alarming risks. She never blamed Mara for the trouble, of course. The horse's intelligence was a gift, and the criminals alone were responsible for exploiting the ranch's vulnerabilities. During the following weeks, Harmony Acres was busier than ever. Journalists who had covered Mara's rescue came back to follow up, though the Caldwells were more cautious about granting interviews. They emphasized the importance of animal welfare, ranch security, and community support rather than letting the story devolve into a spectacle. Harper also took the opportunity to thank everyone who had helped bring Mara home safely, from the anonymous trucker to the local animal rescue groups that had pitched in. The tale of Mara's theft became a rallying cry for equine protection, inspiring other ranches to review their own security. Meanwhile, the daily rhythms that defined Harmony Acres carried on. Children's riding lessons resumed in the ring, goats bleated from their pens for morning feed, and the rescued dogs barked playfully at volunteers. Mara often watched these activities from her secure stall or fenced pasture, ears flicking at the lively chatter. Sometimes she'd receive a gentle pat from a child who recognized her from the viral videos, starstruck to meet the clever mare in person. Silas, who'd always preferred behind-the-scenes management, admitted that Mara's high profile did serve a greater purpose. Donations rose after her story circulated, allowing the ranch to fund improvements in medical supplies and infrastructure. Still, he balanced gratitude for the extra resources with an unwavering commitment to preserving the ranch's tranquility. Harmony Acres was no amusement park, and he intended to keep it that way. Though new security measures gave the farm a different atmosphere, the heart of Harmony Acres remained unchanged. The staff, volunteers, and especially Jonas never lost sight of what mattered most: caring for the horses, fostering a spirit of community, and ensuring that no one, human or animal, had to face undue risk ever again. Over time, Harmony Acres reclaimed a steadiness that had been shaken by the theft. The ranch glowed under the sun, its rolling fields speckled with horses that could graze in safety without fear of intruders. Children returned for lessons, eyes wide with excitement at meeting Mara, whose fame had turned her into a sort of local celebrity. Some recognized her from news stories, pointing and whispering in awe whenever she appeared. Despite the changes to security protocols, a warm, inviting spirit still pervaded the ranch. Neighbors often stopped by with baked goods or small donations, lingering a while to chat with Silas or Harper about how the horses were faring. More than a few asked Jonas to recount the rescue story, how it felt when he saw Mara in that rundown barn, relieved beyond words that she was alive and well. Each retelling drove home the miracle of her safe return. Feeling a renewed calling, Silas approached the local sheriff's department with a proposal for a community workshop on preventing livestock theft. Together with Harper and Jonas, he arranged a public event where they shared firsthand experiences of how criminals operate and how ranch owners could deter them. Flyers went up around town, and the turnout was larger than they had expected. Farmers, hobby ranchers, and curious residents filled the small community center. Harper spoke about the emotional toll of having an animal stolen. Jonas described practical steps like better locks and camera systems, and Silas emphasized the importance of neighbors looking out for one another. Mara, though not physically present at the workshop, remained the centerpiece of discussion. Her story provided a tangible example of why vigilance mattered. People asked if she still tried picking locks now that the ranch doors were reinforced. Harper laughed, explaining that Mara would give the latches a cursory check, but seemed content to let them be. "I think she knows we're only doing what's best," Harper said, drawing smiles from the crowd. As the workshop concluded, the sense of camaraderie was palpable. Attendees swapped phone numbers, promising to keep each other informed about any suspicious activity. Even old-timers who rarely left their own property saw the value in staying connected. The Caldwell family's ordeal, Shasum, had become an educational opportunity, one that might save other families and animals from a similar trauma. Back at Harmony Acres, life carried on at a gentle pace. Jonas resumed his daily interactions with Mara, grooming her shiny black coat and feeding her crisp apples as a treat. Sometimes he'd linger by her stall, recalling the gut-wrenching moment he realized he had slept through the thieves' incursion. Yet, instead of letting that guilt consume him, he used it as motivation to stay vigilant. If he ever felt exhaustion creeping in, he would remember the look in Mara's eyes when they reunited in that cramped barn. That memory alone was enough to propel him through countless late-night security checks. Then came the day Harmony Acres received an invitation that underscored Mara's broader impact. A prominent regional horse show reached out, asking whether the lock-picking mare might feature in a special exhibition spotlighting unique equine talents. Typically, these shows focused on dressage, jumping, and speed competitions. But Mara's claim to fame was different. She had captured the public's imagination through her intelligence and cunning, rather than her athletic prowess. Silas and Harper pondered the proposal. They worried that the big crowds and intense environment might stress Mara. However, they also recognized a chance to emphasize a positive message, one that underscored animal welfare, responsible ownership, and the powerful bond between horse and caretaker. If done carefully, the show could further highlight the lessons gleaned from Harmony Acres' ordeal. With Jonas's help, they planned a short demonstration. They would not encourage her to open complex locks. There was no desire to replicate the chaos that once plagued the ranch, but they could illustrate her knack for problem-solving with simpler tasks. Jonas trained her to lift a latch on a small demonstration box, ring a bell with her muzzle, and perform a gentle bow. The emphasis was on building trust and showing off Mara's mindful nature, not on any sensational trick that might put her or the crowd at risk. As the date approached, excitement in the community built. Families who knew Mara's story through the media spread the word, eager to see her in person. On the day of the show, the Caldwell family loaded Mara into a clean, well-maintained trailer and headed to the arena. Unlike the thieves' hasty operation, this trip was one of celebration, complete with protective gear and a calm, familiar routine. Upon arrival, the event organizers guided them to a special staging area, away from the hectic bustle of the main rings. When Mara stepped out, onlookers recognized her immediately. Whispers and camera flashes rippled through the crowd. Silas led her around to help her adjust, while Harper greeted curious fans and journalists, reiterating the importance of treating animals ethically. Jonas stayed by Mara's side, quietly reassuring her and offering the occasional pat. The demonstration itself was brief but mesmerizing. In a small corral designated for exhibitions, Mara showcased her gentle adaptability. Jonas gave her simple cues, and she nudged open a child-proof latch on a feed box, paused as though proud of herself, then gave a playful toss of her head as the crowd applauded. Harper spoke over a microphone, sharing how Mara's curiosity had once led her into mischief, but also helped raise awareness about horse protection. By the end, more than a few spectators were wiping tears from their eyes, moved by the tale of a mare who became both a viral sensation and a symbol of resilience in the face of danger. After the show, the Caldwell family loaded Mara safely back into the trailer and returned to Harmony Acres under a dusky sky. As they turned onto the familiar driveway, the ranch lights glowed softly like a welcoming beacon. Silas and Harper tended to the mundane tasks of unloading gear, while Jonas led Mara to her stall. The mare lowered her head to sniff at fresh bedding, then nickered gently, as though affirming that she was content to be home. Outside, night insects buzzed among the fences, and the silhouettes of other horses dotted the dim pasture, offering a tranquil backdrop to the end of a long day. Jonas paused by Mara's stall, remembering everything they had gone through since he first noticed the stable doors hanging open weeks ago. He thought of those tense early mornings when he blamed the wind or imagined rowdy teens, the shock of seeing Mara work the latches on camera, the moment of betrayal when thieves took her away, and the overwhelming relief when they found her safe in that rundown barn. Gently, he stroked Mara's neck. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he whispered. The mare blinked, ears swiveling toward him. With a final pat, he made sure her water bucket was filled and the stall door locked, a door that, for all her talents, Mara no longer seemed inclined to challenge. Stepping outside, Jonas joined Silas and Harper in a brief conversation about the future. They discussed how the ranch's renewed security measures would remain in place indefinitely, how community workshops would continue, and how Mara's story might keep evolving as more people discovered it online. Even though life at Harmony Acres had changed, there was solace in knowing that growth and adaptation were part of caring for living creatures. As night fully settled, a hush spread over the ranch. Each horse had a safe, secure place to rest, and staff members took their appointed turns on patrol. The past weeks had been a testament to how quickly calm could turn to chaos, and how a united community, fueled by compassion and determination, could bring that calm back. Mara stood as a living reminder of both the unpredictable wonders and the dangers lurking in the world. In the end, her story wasn't merely about a clever mare with a knack for opening doors. It was about the bond between people and the animals they vow to protect, the courage to face risks, and the power of collective resolve. Harmony Acres might never be the same carefree haven it once was, but it had emerged stronger, buoyed by a spirit of unity that ensured no horse would be left to fend for itself. And through it all, Mara remained at the heart of this transformation, a beacon of resilience in the enduring connection shared by humans and animals alike. Looking back on this whole adventure, one thing stands out above all else: the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Yes, our clever mare dazzled us with her resourcefulness. And yes, the ranch community faced trials that tested their courage. But in the end, her story isn't just about escaping stables or eluding thieves. It's about people coming together, using their strengths to protect what they love, and discovering new depths of trust and responsibility in the process. From the nighttime lockpicking to the eventual rescue, each hurdle brought with it valuable lessons on compassion, vigilance, and the power of unity. We hope this story left you feeling both uplifted and inspired. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Do you know animals with hidden talents or surprising intelligence? Let's discuss. Your voices help shape our future storytelling, and we look forward to hearing every insight, memory, or suggestion you'd like to share.